Welcome to Pricing College with your hosts, Joanna Wells
and Aidan Campbell.
Okay, so what's the number one thing that you love about pricing and perhaps that you don't like so much about pricing? When I ask this question, people generally tell me the negative. And in B2B, guess what it is? Tender pricing. People hate going through the process of tendering with their customers. Now, so today we're just going to talk about some of the frustrations and problems with pricing and tenders.
Yeah, if you think what we're doing here is moaning and complaining, you will be exactly right. That is the entire intention of this podcast today. The thing that really gets on my nerves about tenders is, in many instances, they're absolutely pointless. Like, I'll give you the example. If you think about a customer buying a product or service, and so say you're going out to buy anything, what you generally do is you do the research, you find out the answer, you compare, you ask for reviews, you kick the tires, you do everything about it. And so you make up an educated, you do the legwork and you make up an educated decision, and then you make the right purchase. The tender process in general does the exact opposite of that. What it generally does is it does no work, or pretends to have done no work in advance, and sends out a list of questions that they want answered, and then has basically a marketing department combined with a sales department and a pricing department in a company fill these things in. It's almost like the worst possible way to find out and to inform yourself about buying any product or service.
Yeah, in a way, it's really like a guessing game for everybody concerned. In a way, it shows who's an informed buyer, who's an uninformed buyer, who's an informed seller, and who's an uninformed seller. But unfortunately, it doesn't really give either the buyer or the seller a chance to have a meaningful conversation about the number one thing, customer value, and how the sales team can help deliver on particular problems a customer may have. It also doesn't give them the real opportunity to discuss specific things that the customer needs. Often in this process, it's a very one-sided process. There's not enough questions and not enough communication. So I think the communication breaks down completely.
Yeah. Like, I think what we can do is go through what we think are some of the more annoying or nonsensical aspects of the tender process. Like, I'll start with number one. Say you're going to buy an industrial product, widgets, or let's just call it widgets. I have no idea what a widget is, but let's say that. So what you do is you go to the industrial company who specialize in making widgets, and you ask them to provide you with a colorful document with nice photographs, describing the products and services. Are you honestly telling me that you are really going to look and compare the quality of the brochure, the type of photographs? Like, to me, that's absolutely ludicrous. It's if someone can provide the service, a tradesman who can do a service does not necessarily mean they can also fill in a complex tender document. They're chalk and cheese.
Yeah, I think you're touching on a good point. I think often we're using sort of old school marketing techniques to, promote our goods to customers. Sometimes the customers don't care either about how fancy a marketing brochure is, how colourful it is, how glossy and thick the paper is. They want their problems to be fixed. Often, in the past, they would have gone with leading brands who could have perhaps given them all of the above and that glossy brochure. However, that's debatable now sometimes, and very often, especially if it's in niche B2B products and services, you have to go to a smaller player who does specialize in specific products. And they, as Aidan says, they may not have all that glossy brochure, but they do have the insight and they have the knowledge in your problem, and they have the solutions. But the problem with the tender process, it never gets to that point where you can actually have a meaningful discussion about the problem or the solution and get that right mix and fit.
Okay, the second clear nonsensical aspect of tender processes to me is that what you're doing is you're saying, I've done no research. This is the procurement team. I've done no research. I don't know what the product or service is, but you tell me about it, but only in this very strict, regimented system that I want you to tell me about. If you don't know about what you're buying, should you really be dictating to the person who's telling you what they can tell back? Like, I'll give you the example. Say you're up on a murder charge and you're looking for the very best lawyer out there. You're not going to go in and start dictating to the lawyer what they should tell you when trying to convince you to buy their services. It's there's an arrogance in it, and to some extent, it's just foolhardy.
Actually, I've seen quite a few tender documents now in my time. And do you know what? Often a lot of them have been put together really, really badly. They're often just like cut and paste from older RFQs and literally put together. They don't really go into detail about what the customer actually wants. They're just given out, sent out to lots of different selling organizations, businesses, and a pricing team and a sales team have to work with that document and put something together that's meaningful in terms of pricing, and also, the business executive summary, and all the value you can offer. But really, the tender document itself was put together in like literally 5 minutes, and there's so many mistakes in them. So it's very difficult. Again, how are you supposed to have a conversation and build value from here?
Like another aspect I'll say is the ability to really add value through a tender, to differentiate yourself. Tenders often seem to be set up on a very much a price drilling down. I'll get onto the pricing card last because that's my real pet hate. But the one whereby your ability to add value add through the process is just incredibly limited. You're trying to answer these strict questions that are they ever going to be read or compared? I've no idea. I can't imagine they are. And a lot of your ability to say why you're different, why you should not be in this category, there's just no room to excel or to take part in it. So it's a bit like the old saying about the rat race. The only way you win the rat race is not taking part. So it's a tough one.
The last quite annoying thing about tenders would be that idea of, who are you competing with? Are you actually competing with anyone? You'll be told that your price is too high. It's an inevitable, outcome from the whole tender process. They'll come back to you and say, there's somebody competing, giving me exactly your offer, but for less money. And you're supposed to believe them. It's debatable. No two businesses are the same. Operational costs are different. How businesses run are different. The pricing, therefore, is different. The value offered to them are different based on supply, the quality of the products, as well as the insurance of any risk happening. Tons of things that could be involved in that pricing. And they come back to you and say, actually, your price is too low. You've got to lower it. I call this, to some extent, a procurement technique. It's a phantom bid. So why would you go through a whole 6 to 9 month process with a tender and just be told your price is too cheap, and then you've just got to lower those prices right at the end of the tender process? It makes no sense.
Yeah, fundamentally, the pricing card, like, it makes no sense on many levels. Like as Joanna said there, and it really does make a lot of sense. If you've completed the entire document, if the entire document shows your differences, your pluses, how you're stronger or better than other competitors, why then is someone in procurement coming back to you at the end of the process and saying you're slightly higher in this area? What was the point of the differentiation in the entire 100-page document prior to that? The other thing I'll say about it is tender documents, they've already said up front, we do not understand your business. Tell us all about what you do, but then complete this rate card. We will dictate to you how you should fill in and how you should charge for your time. It's like telling, again, the example of the lawyer, the Johnny Cochran character trying to get OJ off. It's like, are you going to dictate to anybody who's an expert in their field how they should charge for a service? What they should do. It reminds me of the classic example. I think it was Nikola Tesla, the famous inventor, who was in a factory. And this is probably not a real story, but I think it was Henry Ford said, "Oh, there's a rattle in the wall," and he goes, "Well, how much would it charge you to fix the rattle?" So Tesla walked along. He touched the wall once. He got a hammer and he put a hole in the wall, and the noise disappeared. And then Henry Ford says, "How much would that cost?" And he goes, "Oh, to find the hole, $20. To know where to look for it, another $20,000." And it's that when you're an expert in any field, you determine how you charge. You don't let someone who doesn't know the product or service dictate this to you. So that's all I've got to add on tenders. And I'm going to calm down now because even the concept of tenders winds me up.
Okay, so from this, what I've got is obviously it's a dysfunctional process. Something has to change. Sales companies, businesses obviously don't like it. They've got their sales team on one hand going through the pain, and yet their procurement team are probably giving other businesses equally annoying documents and processes to go through. I wonder if let's think about how we can improve it through business, and also do procurement really enjoy going through that process too? Is there some other way that they could think about, making that whole process more meaningful, having that better discussion, asking better questions, just to cut through the process and get to the point where you're actually fixing real business problems, making money, lowering costs, increasing revenue, because that's really what all of this is about. The tender process really doesn't fix any of that.
Just one more thing that's sprung to mind there with tenders, and again, it's a nonsensical thing. Like, how often do you look in the newspapers and you see a major infrastructure project has blown out cost wise to huge degrees, from $1 billion to $3 billion, but the same person building it keeps going. And what to some extent there you're going, well, how did that tender process work in the beginning? They dictated how they wanted to be, what they wanted to be told. They didn't want to listen to other, maybe factual or truth from other suppliers, and they picked the lie that they liked the most. And so, to some extent, you're not lying to the procurer, but to some extent, you can't tell them the full truth because they've already told you they're not going to listen to it. So, yeah, it's people get what they deserve in many regards, and that's all I got to add.
All right, on that happy note, thanks a lot for listening. Goodbye.
Thanks again. Have a great day. Bye.